Long ago, in the ancient lands of Sheba, there reigned a queen of extraordinary wisdom and grace, Queen Bilqis. Her beauty was as radiant as the dawn, and her throne shimmered with gold and precious stones that dazzled the eyes. Her people loved her deeply, for under her rule, the kingdom flourished with wealth, art, and prosperity. Yet, despite all her greatness, Queen Bilqis and her people had fallen into a grave mistake. They worshipped the sun. Every morning, as the first rays touched the palace walls, Bilqis would bow before the blazing orb, believing it to be the giver of life and light. But beyond the deserts and mountains, a message had already reached the world. The message of Prophet Solomon, A.S., the king of prophets, whose dominion stretched over men, jinn, and all creatures that roamed the earth. One morning, as Solomon was seated upon his grand throne surrounded by armies of men, birds, and spirits, he noticed the absence of one small yet loyal creature, the hoopoe bird. When the bird returned, it bowed its wings in respect and said, "I have come from a distant land, from Sheba, where a great queen rules. She has been given everything, yet she and her people bow to the sun instead of Allah." Hearing this, Solomon's eyes shone with both curiosity and compassion. He took a royal scroll, inscribed upon it words of peace and truth, and said to the bird, "Take this letter to the Queen of Sheba, place it before her, and then wait to see what she decides." The hoopoe soared across mountains and valleys, its tiny wings carrying the weight of a divine message. When it reached the palace of Sheba, it flew silently through an open window and dropped the letter before the queen's throne. Queen Bilqis, surprised, picked it up and read aloud. "It is from Solomon, and it begins in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Do not exalt yourselves above me, but come to me in submission to Allah." The words struck her heart like a thunderbolt. She called her ministers and advisors, her voice calm yet trembling with curiosity. "A noble letter has been delivered to me," she said. "It commands humility and invites us to faith. Tell me, what should I do?" Her advisors, full of pride and arrogance, replied, "We are strong, O Queen. We have power and armies. If you command, we will wage war." But the queen, wise and patient, said, "A king never attacks a land without destroying it. Let us not rush to conflict. I will send gifts to Solomon and test whether he is a true prophet or merely another ruler seeking power." So her messengers set out with treasures of gold, gems, and perfumes more precious than anything known to man. But when they arrived before Solomon, he looked at the gifts and smiled. "Do you think you can win me over with wealth?" He said, "What Allah has given me is far greater than what you offer. Return to your queen and tell her that if she does not come to me in submission, I will march with such power that no fortress will stand." The messengers returned with trembling hearts, for they had seen a power beyond human might. A kingdom ruled not just by men, but by faith. Bilqis listened, her mind clouded with wonder. Who was this prophet whose command reached the birds and beasts? What kind of ruler refused gold and desired only truth? She decided to meet Solomon herself and discover the mystery behind his words. The journey from Sheba to Jerusalem was long and perilous. Queen Bilqis traveled with her royal caravan, golden chariots glinting under the sun, camels loaded with treasures, and guards in armor shining like mirrors. Yet, despite the grandeur, her heart was filled with questions. Who was Solomon? What kind of man claimed to rule over the winds and the unseen? Was this the truth she had been searching for all along? Meanwhile, Solomon prepared for her arrival. His court was a marvel beyond imagination, his throne carved with divine precision, his palace walls made of crystal that reflected the sky, and his armies standing in perfect silence, awaiting the queen. As Bilqis approached, Solomon, by the command of Allah, asked his jinn, "Who among you can bring me her throne before she arrives?" One mighty jinn stepped forward and said, "I can bring it before you rise from your seat." But another, more righteous servant of Allah, said, "I will bring it to you in the blink of an eye." In that very instant, Bilqis' throne appeared before Solomon's eyes. He looked upon it and said, "This is a blessing from my Lord, to test whether I am grateful or ungrateful." When the queen entered Solomon's palace, she was astonished. She saw her own throne placed there before her, yet no one had entered her kingdom. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "Is this truly my throne?" she asked softly. Solomon smiled and said, "Something resembling your throne." She realized then that this was no ordinary man. This was a prophet of God, Solomon then guided her to a magnificent hall whose floor was made of pure crystal, beneath which flowed clear water with fish swimming gracefully. As she stepped forward, she lifted her gown, thinking the floor was water. Solomon said, "This is but a hall made of glass." Bilqis stood still, overwhelmed by the majesty and wisdom before her. She whispered, "Oh my Lord, I have wronged my soul. I now submit, with Solomon, to Allah, the Lord of all worlds." That moment changed everything. The woman who once ruled through pride found peace in surrender. The sun worshipper became a servant of the creator of the sun. The entire court of Solomon witnessed a transformation unlike any other, a queen humbled not by power, but by truth. After accepting faith, Bilqis spent days in reflection. She would often look at the horizon where the sun once rose and whisper, "How blind I was to think this light was godly, when the real light is unseen but eternal." She had found the truth she had unknowingly longed for all her life. From that day forward, her kingdom began to change. Idols were torn down, and temples once filled with false gods echoed with the praises of the Almighty. Solomon guided her with kindness and wisdom, teaching her that true strength lies not in armies or gold, but in obedience to the Creator. And so, two rulers, one a prophet, the other a queen, became partners in faith, spreading justice, mercy, and truth across their lands. When Queen Bilqis embraced the faith, a wave of peace swept through the palace. The lights in Solomon's court seemed to glow brighter, the birds began to sing melodiously, and even the jinn bowed in silent respect. Prophet Solomon looked at her kindly and said, "O Queen, today you have recognized your true Lord." When the light of faith enters the heart, the doors of the heavens and the earth open before it. Tears filled Bilqis's eyes, not of sadness, but of peace. That single moment marked a new beginning in her life. The woman who once bowed before the sun now bowed before the creator of the sun. That night, Bilqis stood on the roof of her palace, gazing at the sky. For years, she had looked toward the heavens in worship of the sun, but now she saw the same sky through the light of truth. She whispered softly, "My Lord, I searched for you in the darkness, yet you were always there in the light." From that day on, she was no longer just a queen. She became a seeker of divine truth. She would often ask Solomon, "O prophet of God, why do people chase the world even though it is so fragile?" Solomon smiled gently and replied, "The world is like a shadow that disappears when the sun sets. True life begins only near the Creator." As time passed, Bilqis began reforming her kingdom. She ordered the idols to be destroyed, replacing the temples of stone with houses of worship. Her people witnessed a transformation from pride to humility, from darkness to light. Every night, her palace echoed with prayers and recitations that filled the air with serenity. When she recited the words of God, the entire palace shimmered with divine radiance. One day Solomon told her, "O Queen, your people will remember you with honor because you recognized the truth before it was too late." She replied humbly, "O Prophet, had my Lord not guided me, I would have remained lost forever." Her devotion grew deeper each day. Under her rule, the kingdom of Sheba flourished in justice and peace. Her people began to live in harmony, and for the first time, faith ruled over fear. Seeing this, Solomon smiled and said, "When faith enters the heart, even the earth becomes a reflection of heaven." But Jani, hidden in this story lies a message far greater than a royal tale. This wasn't just a meeting between a king and a queen. It was a battle between pride and faith emerged victorious. The story of Bilqis reminds us that wealth, beauty, and power are fragile if the soul remains empty. She had everything, yet only when she found her Creator did she find peace. It teaches us that divine decisions may seem difficult, but they always lead us to something far better. Had Bilqis not journeyed to Solomon's court, she might have remained a prisoner of her own illusions. But when she took one step toward truth, God opened the gates of eternity for her. Eventually, Bilqis handed her throne to Solomon's divine rule and spent the rest of her life in worship and reflection. She understood that true wealth is not in gold or power, it is in belief, for faith never fades. That is why history remembers her not only as a queen, but as a soul illuminated by divine light. At the end of this story lies an eternal truth. Power fades, riches vanish, and kingdoms fall, but faith remains everlasting. It is the only light that never dims. The same light that once pulled a proud queen away from idolatry and led her toward the mercy of her creator. And that Jannah is the essence of true victory, not conquering lands or people, but conquering one's own heart.